It is quite interesting an exercise from both sides, the Parliament and the Council of Ministers, and I think it makes for good viewmanship and good politics, and I hope that you're taking the opportunity to take it in. But for those of you who could not, for whatever reason, have a chance to get clips and reviews here on Pearl FM 98.1 FM. But before we get started, there are some things I would like to look at, and time permitting, we will bring you some members of Parliament from yesterday's debate. We've brought you some from Monday, and we'll bring you all of them before the week is out, because we're going to do a review on what happened with the budget debate until it's approved or not approved. But yesterday, there was much talk and much writing about State Secretary Knops will be addressing the nation on reconstruction, the State of the Union, and what Parliament should or shouldn't do for as it concerns expediting budget approval and passing of the recommendations, the ordinance, and the Financial Action Task Force. So, addressing the nation then to what end? Let me first explain that democratic rights, the freedom of expression, Knops or any Johnny-come-lately, anybody who come here can have an opinion and they can voice it because that is protected by law. As I said before, everybody and his brother is entitled to their opinion. There are a few things though. They are not entitled to their own facts, and we need to get the truth, the facts and figures to make it so. Mr. Knops, like everybody else, can have their opinion. They can critique our politicians and our policies. That's okay. But in the case of Knops especially, it borders on a lack of respect and the colonial posturing that they believe they have this right to talk down to people. That's all it is, because in the Netherlands, where he comes from, where he is a junior minister, and bear in mind what junior minister means, he has to talk to his boss to make statements, and mostly his boss, Mr. Ollegren, makes these statements. Furthermore, many lies about what has been done and how it's being held up should be crystal clear to our people when we consider that today, almost 2 years after September 6, 2017, the passing of the calamity, the flashing of money, which would have been a cure-all, a panacea, and the measly 22 million that they now can account for that was spent in St. Martin, we know that it makes no sense. And as a people, we don't need him to explain that. We know what is happening in this country. We know that our people are still crying out for help, and it's good for them to come as they did in 2017 and play the blame game. This is something these people are good at. They control the press, and what you do is just blame the victim. That's the way it works. His covert attempt to justify Dutch companies and Dutch concerns getting priority in the reconstruction of St. Martin is truly amazing, and it's snake in the grass politics. At the very inception of the trust fund and all the conditions, it was stated clearly that St. Martin companies should be the beneficiaries of the reconstruction fund, and that would not change, or the kingdom could be damned, because we're going to see, it's our job to see to it that St. Martin people benefit from this, or else they could take their money and leave. It can be so that we're going to reconstruct a country, and this country isn't going to be any better for it. In 1995 and leading from 1992 after the highest revision, they came and they left in St. Martin was the same place, and they themselves who were in charge of, as they put it, cleaning up the mess, the Praying Hope, you remember? When they left, they started with the same discussion again, because what they did while they were here, what made our lives better. And after Hurricane Lewis, the same thing. If it was not for the insurance and the resilience of the people, we might have been where we are today, even back then. Also, this craziness that he said, that everyone with a Dutch passport is a local St. Martin. Now, that is not only laughable, but it's a joke. It's pure political spin and a play on words. It's craziness. Considering that the Dutch, a country built from the abominable slave trade and the colonial era, today that still show remnants of their inhumane past by honoring the Zwarte Piet character as a cultural part of the Dutch society, not caring that is demeaning and insulting, and bring back memories of their contribution to the Dark Ages. To say that everybody with a Dutch passport is a St. Martiner is really a joke. Not to forget that over the years, if you follow discussions in the second chamber on the streets in the Netherlands, you would hear that all attempts are made or were made back then to put the so-called Antillians, the people from the Caribbean countries, out of the Netherlands. So all of a sudden, everybody with a Dutch passport becomes a St. Martiner. But I've argued this before, because not that they are St. Martiners. I've argued that until we decide, until we get the gumption, the wherewithal, or the intestinal fortitude to be clear about who we are and who are part of us, we always get this statement, because for them it's an economical thing. If it suits their economical aid, then their needs, then they're St. Martiners. And you're going to hear it come up in with one of the addresses from Parliament yesterday, because they were talking, who's a St. Martin and who's not. And while I don't have any real problem with determining who's a St. Martin, I'm sure I know who they are. I've never had that problem. But we need to make it clear, because what we're getting to right now, if you see the amount of money that was spent in St. Martin and the amount of things that were not done, that was promised by this same CONOPS that would have been done last year, before the hurricane season last year, 2018, then you know, or you could only guess, that things will only move from the trickle-down effect when the Dutch companies have priorities. So when Dutch people are making the money, then things would move, because that's where it's going. I don't have these reservations like people in Parliament, people in government, to talk about these things, because all of them see what I see, but for different reasons, some of them will not speak out. If you have waited 2 years to get 22 million, which you could have, even with a bad economy, you could have paid yourself. How many more years you're going to wait for whatever remains of the 470 million? Because if you add up all these tranches and all the things that went for, and those things that were done and not done, you would see that the money is being spent elsewhere and on other things and not in St. Martin, and we're not right now better off for it. And I don't believe that we will be any better for it going forward. Yesterday, as many times before, Parliament spent quite some time on the CFT, and as we have seen so many times before, there remains a certain reluctance, procrastination, fear in dealing with the issue that negatively affect this country, our society. You know, the Parliament of Aruba has changed the rules on the Aruba CFT by now making it compulsory for them to report to the Parliament of Aruba and not the Kingdom Council of Ministers. We act as if these people are God sent, and instead of telling them where we want to go and what we hope to achieve. We let them set the goals for us. They decide what needs to be done. This CFT is supposed to be an advisory body, and 9 short years into the existence of this so-called separate status, this country status, they have usurped the competence of Parliament. The CFT can take decisions taken by Parliament on the budget and turn it around after it comes from Parliament, because they have more power than the elected people. The CFT now don't only give advice on how they think you could balance the budget. No, they tell you what projects you should do and what you shouldn't do. They want to determine what are priorities and what should be priorities for us. And not only that, they have gone further now and they're setting the timelines for Parliament. I mean, really, we have made ourselves to such beggar status that we have to really sit back and accept these things and talk about being a country, an equal partner in a kingdom. What equal partner and what kingdom? And yesterday in Parliament, a few members referred to the kingdom government, and they were able to make a correlation, because the kingdom government is nothing else but the Dutch government. So the Dutch government have it both ways. They come in as the Dutch government to put pressure, they'll come in as the kingdom government, and God knows what else they'll come in as later. The fact remains, there's no respect for Parliament or Council of Ministers here. We are big. We say what to do, and if you don't like it, as they've said before to more than one prime minister in this country, because God knows we had about 8, if you keep in count, that if you don't like what we do, get up, we kingdom. I don't know how it come, we kingdom, but I don't want to argue that point, because first and foremost, I'm a St. Martin, so I don't really care about those things. What Parliament need to decide, because all of this thing here don't really play a lot on me. If my Parliament, my government would decide that the CFT have to go, there's nobody on earth that could change that. All we need to do, and we've had 9 years already, we have done nothing. We complain a lot and we boast how much we do, but that's self-serving. What you do that affects the lives of people is what counts. We could put a budget commission together. We could put a supervisory body together to supervise the budget and check on our spending discipline and stuff like that. Those are things you could do for yourself. You don't really need a CFT. You don't need foreign people breathing down your neck and setting course for you. You can do it yourself. And we're not doing anything except a lot of complaining. And if you look now at the dispute regulation, same thing, ditto. A lot of talk. We're going backwards and forward this meeting there. And what is interesting, what is interesting to me, I saw one of the professors who once said that it would make no sense if the dispute regulation is adopted without taking along the objections of the islands, is now saying that no, the things that Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin want is not viable. It can be done in the dispute regulation. So we're not going anywhere. I've said before, I didn't believe in it. I've said before that nothing is going to happen, and I'm going to be proven right, because they're going to vote on it and they're going to adopt it. And then I go back to my previous discussion on the necessity to spend a lot of the taxpayers' money to go to IPCO and those kind of things. What is it we hope to achieve by having nice little chats? Because the Dutch are not going to change anything to suit the needs of these islands or gripes in these islands. Dispute regulation, so the dispute. The Dutch don't have a dispute with me. They can't have a dispute with me. They can't have a dispute in Ireland because they use the fact that they have a guarantee function and any other thing to impose on you. They could give instructions directly. They could give it through the governor. They could put you under higher supervision. So they don't have a dispute. The dispute is from the Caribbean side going the other way. And if you're going to complain the devil to his imp, it makes absolutely no sense. You complain the Dutch to the Dutch, and the Dutch has the last word. I mean, really, are we having people believe that we don't know or that we're stupid, or are we just playing dummy for wise reasons, as the old people used to say? Something has to be done, and honestly, talk alone ain't going to hack it. The chair said yesterday, we need to reassess our position in the kingdom and how we deal with the Dutch. I don't know if we need to assess. We need to reassess when and how long it's going to take us to get out, because it's not going to get better going forward. What they're doing now is putting more clamps. And mention was made yesterday of the new military vehicles, the new military gear brought to the island. And then you ask yourself again, to what end? What they do all over the world is show their power with putting boots on the ground. It's the boots on the ground to tell us how to behave or to show us what we can expect going forward. I'll leave you with those thoughts for now. We're going to go to Parliament. We have queued up one of the speakers yesterday, and we'll let you listen to him. Good morning, Pearl. How are you doing?
Good morning, Mr. Jones. Not too bad. Pretty good. Enjoyed your day I was about to say another word. Enjoyed yourself in Parliament yesterday?
Man, I spent the day, and at least yesterday I get some coffee. They're not sharing the food yet, but I think I'm going to do better going forward. Anyway, we have Member of Parliament Myers queued up, and we'll let you listen to him. And
what's your analysis of what you heard yesterday?
I think it was good. There was, sometimes in Parliament, sometimes politicians are not sure if they want to be combative or if they want to seek consensus. So they take both routes, and I'll refer back that, I don't want to fight, but this and this and this, and then, so but it's a good way to present. If you can speak, if you have the gift of gab, to play with words, you could do that anytime. The fact is, though, in Parliament, a speaker has a right to speak the things the way he sees it. That doesn't mean he's right, and it doesn't mean that people have to agree with him, but you have the right to give the people the impression you get of what's happening and why it's happening and the way you think you can remedy it. My problem with Parliament is given all the right hitting all the right notes, but it's not being converted into a tune. So we go through the notes, but we're not putting it all together to make a tune. Everybody has these skepticism of what's happening with the Dutch and what you could do, but nobody's saying let's go. Everybody's afraid to take that step. Everybody in my day learned to swim by throwing them in the water. They themselves was not going to jump in the water. They want to keep their feet on the ground, and yet learn to swim. It's not possible. You're either in or out, and have the political will, the intestinal fortitude, or what the people call simple guts, to say enough is enough, we want out, thank you, goodbye. And if we have struggled before, if we have to struggle, what is the problem? We have struggled before. We don't have to promise everybody a Cadillac and air condition and all those things, but we're going to at least hold what we have, that is respect, our own self-respect, and we can go back to building our country. It has already taken us 2 years to try and hold on to whatever competitive edge we would have had, or up to now, with what's happened, this trickle thing they have here puts it in jeopardy. So we're not going to gain anything right now. So we don't have to. We have seen that we have given concessions. We have problems now with border control. Parliament itself is asking the minister yesterday, and I said this on Monday, who reports on border control now that you give it to the Dutch? We have an influx of Venezuelans, we have Nicaraguans, we have everybody who come here to work. Nothing is happening. It's easy if we go back to raids to pick up the black Caribbean people. But everybody with light skin or white skin is a tourist, while they're just as illegal as the others, and we don't readily go after them. So we need to do more than just talk. We need to see it real, and we need to one day step off from our pedestal and get in the position of the man on the street, the layman, citizen X. Another thing that came up yesterday, and I think the chair lady explained it well, and I hope we can get to her before we finish today. But one of the things she didn't, she explained how they come about the salaries of the parliamentarians, and that it's a law which we know before. But there was connection between the highest salary in the civil service, there's referendars, I think it is, and if I can remember, in my time it was 17, and they went out from the premise that the parliamentarians should have 5% above that. Now, if you hook the salaries, if you link the salaries to the salaries of civil servants, it will carry the same 5% principle. If you go to reducing the salaries, it means you're going to reduce the civil servants too. And how many civil servants can really afford? Because we have some civil servants in government for 20 years or more, are still in Scale 4 and Scale 5 and things like that. So the effect, the downward effect, so we're not building from the bottom up, we're cutting from up down, will be detrimental to other people. So we cannot, and I don't agree that we do things based on the wishes of the nurse. We have to look for a way to do things that is well thought out and take well-rounded decisions. But let's listen to the parliamentarians and we'll comment going further and see how far we get.
Okay, good. We'll do that. I had a couple more questions for
Go
you,
ahead,
but
pose them, man.
before we do that, let's see if we can get something in from Mr. Meyer, like you said, because the populace has to understand the way forward. Because if you're going to be giving the information, disseminating the information to the populace, the voters, the people who is caught between the rock and the hard place, they would need to understand exactly what to expect and how they should look at both sides. Now, at this present moment, it's not only both sides of the table, but it's the four sides of the table.
Now, what happened? I read a book from Eric Williams, Winds of Change. And in that book, he said, we should speak to our people as if they're all university graduates, because you don't talk down to your people. You have to accept the fact that your people are intelligent, they can understand. So you speak to them that way. And when I look at my parliament, listen to my parliament, they're not speaking down to the people, but they're not speaking without reservations to the people. So there are things they could have said, but they refuse to say.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. So in order to disseminate it properly,
you have to go the full mile.
Okay.
Say everything. What you refer to as we're talking over the heads. You're not talking over the heads of the people. We're just not giving them all the information, bits and pieces. We're not in a legal sense. What they say, you don't volunteer information. You tell what you want. The rest, let them figure it out. And that's where we're going wrong, because the people, if they get good leadership, if they know where you want to take them, they will follow you. But you're not giving them all the information. You're asking them to figure it out. And that's, in my humble opinion, not the way it should be when you're given leadership, when you are in a leadership position.
Yes, so that's why I would say here, before we start with Mr. Myers, that considering Mr. Myers and the chair lady's presentation, I think that's where they were alluding to in order to give the full and direct story and to take command, and that it would not be too much of a for using the word too much, but not a lip service. This seems to be, let's get ready and do the thing. Now, whether it's yes or no, but that sounded like we are going to jump in the water and swim.
Well, we're going to have to at one point or another. One of the things I believe, though, is the people that got you where you are will follow you if they got a feeling that you know where you're going further. So you got to show leadership. I hear in St. Martin sometimes when you walk around, yeah, the problem with St. Martin, they have no leadership. And I say, what do you mean by that? Yeah, but you don't see what happened? Yeah, but that doesn't say nothing to me. What do you mean it doesn't have leadership? They have leaders. Yeah, but what are they doing? If you got a feeling they're not doing what, then you should change them. The leaders themselves have to have the confidence that the people would understand any justified moves that they would make, but let the people know. You can't hold it secret. You can't have the proverbial plan B, C, D, E, F down to Z, but the people don't have it. Tell the people, because ultimately, the last word, the highest office in any democracy, as I've read, is the office of the people. So let the people know and let the people decide where we go from here.
Okay, the history. Let's get into the history of what it is.
All right, let's go.
One of the advantages you have of sitting down and speaking last or close to last is the fact that you get to hear everyone and speak. One of the advantages that you have as being I'm not a millennial, I'm a Generation X, so I'm an old horse in the political arena at this point. And I thank God for that. And the reason I thank God for that is because that comes with a lot of history. So when I speak based on things that has happened in the past, and I could bring them forward to today, and I can relate them. I went to school in the U.S., Madam Chair, so I'm very versed in American history. And American history teaches us that Abraham Lincoln, who was the 16th president of the United States, and you're probably wondering where I'm going with this, signed the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves. Each slave was supposed to get 40 acres and a mule, and so on, and so on, and so on. It wasn't until later on I actually realized that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, because the majority of black people in America vote for the Democratic Party. So I would figure that the person that freed the slaves would have had the loyalty of that political party that freed them. History has shown us, Madam Chair, the people that treat you good is who you kick, and the people that kick you is who you treat good. And that's what history has shown us, is mankind. Mankind has a thing, an innate instinct in us, that when we are treated bad, those are the people that we gravitate to. And I'm going to explain why. Madam Chair, the budget, we know why the budget is running a deficit. All of us in here knows why. If this Council of Ministers and that Minister of Finance was coming here under normal circumstances with a deficit of 70 million, normal circumstances, you would say, oh my God, he's a colossal failure. But each and almost everyone spoke about Hurricane Irma and the devastation that that hurricane had on St. Martin. An economy that is arguably $1 billion economy that has no industries but tourism, only imports. So you're not going to feel the effects of it immediately. Something like that is going to be sustained over 4, 5 years, maybe 10 years. But what we have been able to do collectively as a government and as a people, and something that I'm proud to say, with very little help from the Dutch, we've been able to put St. Martin back on the map. Not for their interests, but for ours. Because we realize the importance of having St. Martin, that shining beacon in the Eastern Caribbean Sea. We realize it. No one had to tell us, hey, you're off the map. We knew it. We went out by the hands of, at that time, the Minister for Christopher Emmanuel. We went out. He made sure the people worked. We worked together as one to put St. Martin back on the map. For us. For us. Today, the impression is being given, and I am quite capable, Madam Chair, of picking a fight. I am quite capable of being an enemy. One thing I will not do is allow somebody to make me an enemy. To make me an enemy. And you're going to see where I'm going. Because we have to ask ourselves, there's two fundamental questions that we have to ask ourselves in this whole debate. How did we get here? How did we get to this point? And the next question we have to ask, what are we prepared to do about it? If we cannot answer those two questions seriously, all that we have said in here is worth absolutely nothing. Absolutely none. How did we get here? How did the Dutch get the influence on St. Martin? Of course, it's being projected that this government is the Dutch lovers' government. This is the Dutch lovers' government. And we are selling out to St. Martin. But they can't say one thing in which we sold. It's one thing to scream that you're selling, but we can't say one thing that we sold. But what history has shown us, that when something was sold, it was sold by those who are saying that we are selling. 30% of the shares of the harbor were sold. This government, at least not the UD, but the Democratic Party, which I was a part of, bought those shares back. They were sold. But a decision had to be made. Somewhere in the building of the harbor, the sitting government, the SPA government, realized we are not going to have enough money to finish this project. We need to find some money somewhere else. And in that, they put up 30% of the shares of the people's patrimony. St. Martin, oh my God. And they put it up as collateral. They put it up as collateral and they sold it. A couple years later, and I'm sure you heard about the harbor buyback, which we bought back. And those things, that money, went to community projects, houses in the Hope Estate. So the people from St. Martin benefited from it. The people from St. Martin benefit from it. So that's what history has shown. There's another thing which sometimes you have to be sensitive, and I understand government. I heard somebody talk about it, and those who serve as ministers also understands about it. Sometimes we play the politics, yes, but we know how a budget is prepared. A budget is prepared basically by telling the civil servant in your division, okay, give us your wish list. And then based on that, it's cut down that this can't happen, this can't happen, this can't happen. But it's the wish list. And sometimes your staff, your division, your ministry comes and says, well, okay, we've had these cars now for 7 years. They're going to cost government more to maintain at this cost, at this pace, than to buy a new set. So it's put on the budget. When it came to the coalition said, no, we do not believe this is the correct time to buy new cars, for obvious reasons. The same way this government said, we do not believe that this was the time to go in the election right after hurricane. But that too fell on deaf ears. That too fell on deaf ears. But today, history has shown that the only government that has ever bought new cars was the National Alliance government. But we are the car buyers. At least we listened. Because when I got in 2010, we wanted to buy new cars. And they went on the radio program, oh, they're done spending money on new cars. You know, we said, you know something, let's hold off on it. We listened. We listened to the cry of the people. They got in 2012, the cars was bought in 2012. Another set of cars again was bought in 2014. I was never, or any coalition that I was in was sitting and new cars was bought. But we are the car buyers. History. I am not going to let you make an enemy out of me. And that's why I say, how did we get here? It wasn't members of the UD, DP, or the UP saying, lock up Theo Heiliger. It wasn't members of those parties that were saying, one family is benefiting. It wasn't members of those parties who gave Theo Heiliger the name Mr. 10%. It was members of the opposition. And when he's locked up now the Dutch is here, and they lock him up, we ain't saying nothing. But you've said enough. You've said enough. No, we ain't saying nothing. Nobody is going to make Frankie Myers an enemy. I am capable of doing that myself. Nobody is going to tell me how to react. And when I don't react the way they want me to react, they're going to say, I am not on his side. Because we've had 3 marches. 3 marches. And I didn't see them there. But Franklin Antonio Myers was at all 3. So it ain't about lip service. It's where I stand. All 3 I was at. And that's what I am saying. History. His story. And that's why I said, let's talk about how did we get here. Let's talk about it. Let's really talk about it. Let's talk about it. And again, granted, I don't really want to get in the back and forth because I've seen what happens with that. I could go in here and go back and forth with Franz and Chris. And to me, and that's why I've been so quiet, because there's a saying, the quieter you are, the more you hear. I passed the airport the other day and I said, you know something? While we fighting amongst each other in government about whether we should take the 50 million or not, whether we should do pre-clearance or not, Ballast need and building the airport. Not Jojo Construction. You understand? None of the local contractors down there. Ballast need and building it without a bid. Move in, cool, they're building it. But you know something? We like it so. We like it so. And that is why this continuous divide, this wedge that they're pushing between us, this continuous divide, that's why it's so effective. It ain't effective. They could not do this to St. Martin 30 years ago, because St. Martin people was like this. We was proud when one of us achieved, and if you try to get, we stood up. But what happened? For my own advancement, I go fight you down. The crab in the bucket syndrome. The crab in the bucket syndrome. When you put a crab in a bucket, one try to get out, it pull down. But I go a step further. The bucket is not the natural habitat of a crab. The bucket is not the natural habitat of a crab. So this is where we are. This pressure that we are under is not our natural habitat. St. Martin people are a free, fun-loving people. We didn't get the name the Friendly Island by mistake. But people took that friendliness for granted. They took advantage of us because of our friendliness. And we welcome people and come. And then what happened? We got watered down. And then what happened? When the people of St. Martin started to say, okay, pump your brakes, we became the victim. And we had to be scared about what we say in St. Martin. We can't say that, no, you're going to offend this person if you say that. No, you're going to offend that person if you say that. But what about us? We've been offended. I heard one of the prosecutors say that threats have been made towards them. But you are threatening our way of life. We are under constant threat. In the name of justice, slavery was legal. Apartheid was legal. All of these things are legal. So you're mistaking right with what's legal. That's wrong. That's wrong. They're two altogether different things. They're two altogether different things. Tell Hellege gets arrested. He's a sick man, diagnosed with cancer. And you know, I try to look so much at things on the bright side. I said, you know, God bless he got arrested. Because maybe if he didn't get arrested, I said, God works in mysterious ways. Because maybe if he didn't get arrested, they wouldn't have found that cancer. And when they found it, they might have found it too late. It wouldn't have been at that early stage that is treatable. And what they do now? Purposely manipulate his passport to further delay it. To further delay it. That you're jeopardizing his health. We are the ones under the constant gun. We know it. We see it. We see it. Patricia Lynch. Miklos Hitterson. A young local St. Martin. Got in an unfortunate car accident under the influence. They prosecuted him. Fined him. Want to make an example out of him. A Dutch Marine almost killed Patsy Lynch. We haven't heard anything about it. But we don't ask about it neither. We don't say anything about it. We don't demand to know about it. Same thing, he almost killed her. She had to be cut from the car. A Dutch Marine. And he was whistled off. He was drunk. He was whistled off to Europe. Good. How did we get here? How did we get here? We got here. Frankie never had Van Raak or Bosman WhatsApp. There were members sitting down here who had constant contact with them. That was saying the things, they only got to say the things that they were saying, that from information that was coming from St. Martin. Information that was coming from St. Martin. But now the Dutch are here. They're here. All of a sudden, Frankie's a Dutch lover. Frankie's a Dutch lover. All of a sudden, I'm a St. Martin lover. I love this country. that I grew up in, that I knew, and my good friend Arian and I had that thing that when you come here, know your place. Know your place, because we were St. Martin, we stood strong, we stood as one. And let us stay as one, we can stay as one. But what are we going to do about it? All we've identified in here is the problems, which is true. Hurricane, no credit is given that the projected amount of the budget went from, the deficit went from 190 something to 70 something. I mean, an amazing job in my book. Anybody would have come in here and said, whoa, what a great job. No credit is given to that. But you're talking about the doom and the gloom and saying that you guys are talking, yes, the budget is 10 months late. 10 months late. Unacceptable. I can say that. As someone who defends this coalition, I can say it's unacceptable. But I also was a member of the Island Council. And in one night, we approved the 1997 budget and the 1998 budget. The budget was never even presented. They were never even presented. We approved those budgets one night. We got out of there 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I remember the late Van James getting up and saying, St. Martin deserves better than this. But they never presented a budget. Never presented a budget. What are we prepared to do about it? Are we prepared to continue to fight? Because we've seen what the fighting amongst us has gotten us. Absolutely nothing. And I could agree with a lot of the statements made by my colleagues. I signed on to this 550 million euros for the people of St. Martin because I thought it was the best thing to do at the time. And I've stated, based on what, I went publicly and stated it, based on what William said at the time, he was right and I was wrong. But I want you to bear in mind, I was not saying that his performance as Prime Minister after the hurricane or during the hurricane was an A+. Don't get that wrong. Don't get it twisted. Because we know the story of the shelters. The same shelters that we talk about. We know the stories of the shelters. But what are we prepared to do about it? What are we prepared to do about it? We're going to continue coming in here and putting on a show and speaking and getting likes on Facebook and hey, good talk. But we ain't doing nothing about it. I want to stand up as a block with all 15 of us. That's what I want. That is my desire. And tell the Dutch, listen, the people of St. Martin have spoken. This is what we don't want, this is what we don't want, this is what we don't want, this is what we don't want. Are we prepared to do that? I bring in a motion too. And my motion is going to ask for exactly that. This is what we don't want. This is what we don't. We don't want a CFT. You know why we don't want a CFT? Because the IMF, an international organization, reported that the CFT's purpose was to be an independent supervisory financial body. And they are not acting in an independent manner. The CFT is political. That came from the IMF, not Frankie. That came from the IMF. They are not acting in an independent manner. Those are that's a serious statement against the CFT by an international organization. But we are playing, they say all politics is local, but we are playing local politics while we have been destroyed internationally. They said a thing that all of us are corrupt. All of us. But how did we get here? We were the ones who started to perpetuate that anytime a move is made politically, somebody gets a piece of land, somebody opens a business, somebody does it, that something was wrong with that. That something is wrong with that. What do you expect? We did it to ourselves. We did it to ourselves. What do you expect? You expect the people, the international community, to turn a blind eye and say, well, oh, everything is fine there. We did it to ourselves because it was coming from us. It wasn't Knops in here who said that he was offered $2 million to throw down the government. It wasn't Knops in here who said he's selling out the harbor because he's afraid to go to jail. It was us. It was us. And if we continue to say these things, what do you expect the results of that is going to be? What do you expect the results of that is going to be? And now that we have the results of that, we have investigation, we've had between the businesses that, there's about 12 to 13 people that has been arrested. Members of parliament, directors of companies. But because everything, when statues were amazing, birds was bought, pelicans. That was an issue. And I'm just talking about specific things because that's what's coming to my mind now. I'm not targeting anybody because I don't believe that is the purpose of it anyway, either. But what I'm trying to say is they were bought. But months after, when we were out of government and they was in government, I saw the same birds in front of the government building. The same pelicans. But we didn't make an issue about it. We didn't make an issue about it. But my point is, if we continue, if they say we are corrupt and we continue to say it ourselves, the end result is going to be that everything we do, every decision that you make politically, every decision I make politically, is going to be seen in a corrupt light. Every decision is going to be, or nepotism and cronyism, and you're going to say, well, I told you so. You see there? Look at there. And then they're going to start to look into it and say, okay, wait a minute, let's check here. And then they come, and how they just move, they come and they lock you up. So your name is tarnished in a small community. They ain't like you live in Rotterdam, they lock you up, only your neighbors know you. The whole island know you, and then that's it. Then you, your children, and them have to walk with that for the rest of your life. And then our old time saying, whether you're free or not, you're going to hear, by where they smoke this fire. So you're going to have to always walk with that for the rest of your life. But it started. It started among us. It started among us. I've heard statements that Carnival has lost its culture. It's no longer our culture. But that's our fault. Because we've never determined what our culture is. So right now, that's our culture. What's our cultural policy? We have none. What's our cultural policy? We're going on 10 years as a country. What's our anthem? We haven't made a decision on that. We have to make a decision on that. We haven't made a decision on that. What's our national anthem? We sing the St. Martin song. But it's a song. It's not an anthem. It also was that we had to determine and decipher what is a St. Martin. But you know why we don't want to do it? Because we don't want to offend nobody. So push the St. Martin for, but we love the St. Martin. But you don't want to determine what is a St. Martin. Something as simple as saying, well, if you're a 3, 4, 5, 6 generation, then you're a St. Martin. Not that it is any special treatment that you're getting, but it must be determined what is indigenous. That's why Mr. Knops this morning could say, if you got a Dutch passport, you're local. He's right. Because we haven't determined what is a local. So then anything is a local. The Venezuelans got 5 days here, they're local. Because we haven't done it. But it's easy to say, we are anti-Dutch. I don't have Knops number, I don't have a Rack number, I don't have none of them number. Never had it, never will. I like 7-Up. Never had it, never will. And that is the key. We sell out ourselves. We sell out ourselves. And now that we are reaping what we sowed, we blaming. It's you. It's you guys. I commend you for the job that you're doing. For the task that you took up when nobody wanted it. When nobody wanted it. Because I sat in those meetings when nobody wanted it. I commend you for that. But today it's easy. It's always easy from the outside. Criticism is so weak. I hate people who just criticize. Because it's so weak. Then go do. Do. God bless me with the fact that I was able to serve as a commissioner for 8 years. So from the time I got into government, I was doing. That's why I could say that's why I'm not a good legislator. Because I was always in the executive branch. I want to roll up my sleeve and get out and get something done. And for that, public health benefited, sports benefited, telecom benefited. They were all hot items when I was there. Today, not so much. You know why? Because I rolled up my sleeve and I went to work. In spite of what everybody said. You want SLS, St. Martin Laboratory Services, transfer, boom, Frankie Myers. Smith Combs, international carrier, boom, Frankie Meyer. Fiber optic cable, boom, Frankie Meyer. But I didn't toot my horn. I hate tooting my horn because I wasn't doing it for me. I wasn't doing it for me because I have to tell you, just like you know about garbage, I know about fiber, Chris. And that's the thing with you are rude. When you're doing your presentation, people sit down and listen, but you all interrupt. And this is where St. Martin is going. Could criticize, but can't take criticism. But can't take criticism. Disrespectful and rude. Commenting. It's okay for you to sit down and when somebody talking, you don't agree, you're interrupting. But nobody interrupts you when you speak. Show me the courtesy. Show me the respect that I showed you when you were speaking. Show me the respect. We put ourselves here. Nobody else. No Dutch, nobody. I hear people talking about liquidity support. And I don't want liquidity support. But nobody saying, because the liquidity support pays the salary of the member of parliament. I ain't hear nobody saying, I am not accepting my salary this month if the Dutch liquidity support paying it. But I am against the Dutch. And too much Dutch influence. But nobody's saying that. No one is saying that don't pay me if my salary is coming from liquidity support from the Dutch, don't pay me as a member of parliament. Let's make a principled stand now. I am prepared to do that. But all of us won't do it. I'm prepared to do it. That will send a message to them. That will send a message to them. Let's do it. Let's make a stand. Then the people of St. Martin will say, well, wow, these members of parliament serious. They're serious. Otherwise, it's just talk for political consumption. And I don't have time for that. This building came under, and I'm going to show you why. This building came under a lot of scrutiny. A local man had to retrofit this building to make it a parliament building. He had to retrofit it. He charged what he thought was necessary based on, don't forget, if parliament leaves tomorrow, he has a parliament building. But he can't rent a parliament building to nobody. So he's going to have to retrofit it to something else. All right? The price too high. It's only after Hurricane Irma that I realized that the Vromy building didn't belong to government. I realized it was leased. But you see, it wasn't leased to a local. So it wasn't something that we could have thrown on the political platform. Crab in the bucket. Crab in the bucket. But not the natural habitat of the crab. Because if that building had belonged to a local, you would have known who it was for, how much rent it was being paid. So, Minister of Justice, I want to know how long government had that contract with that building on the Pondville, the former Vromy building. Sorry, Minister of Vromy. And I also want to know what that rent was. So what government paid over the years. I want to know. I want to know. And I agree. I could remember, because there's things that people say that I remember. I remember sitting down here in MP France Richardson saying, not because somebody dangled money. You gotta bend over for it. Today I can say he was right. I can say he was right. Because national pride and dignity should come before money. But we must prepare. I am prepared. We must be prepared to tell the Dutch, keep your money. Keep your money. Keep your money. But I can't blame Leona, Perry, Emil, Miklos, Pastor Smith, Connie, and Stewart without blaming myself. Because they took on a task based on a directive based on what we gave them. So I can't. That will be hypocrisy at its highest level. I can't. I am ready, willing, and able to remedy the situation. I'm not going to throw down the government. I'm not going to throw down the government because I also know what the consequences of that will be for St. Martin. And just like I signed on for the 550 million for the benefit of St. Martin, I will not do anything for the detriment of St. Martin. 22 million in 2 years based on a 550 million allotment is a joke. It is a joke. I can say that. It's a joke. That's what you got to deal with. You understand? You got to deal with that because that's what we, but we signed on together. I signed on with you to say, well, hey, do that. Let's go and get this money so we can help the people. We've helped ourselves. We've helped ourselves. And as a matter of fact, I dare to say, if it wasn't for the civil servants, you could basically tell them, boy, you keep your money. Because I'm sure a majority of that liquidity support goes to pay salaries. Minister of Health, I asked a question years ago. I know I was away on December the 6th when that meeting continued, but I don't know if you answered it. After the hurricane, a charter plane by the St. Martin Medical Center was commandeered by the RST. They had dialysis patients that the medical center had chartered that plane for. That was at the crucial point. I want to know if this is true because I understand that dialysis patients died because they did not receive that treatment in time. It's something, again, that we turn in a blind eye to. You understand? Because it seems to me that when these things happen, you're black, you die, nobody care. But if you're white, the whole world for long, especially if you're white and Dutch. And I go say it like it is. And who don't like it, gonna have to lay down next to it. But my people died as that act. And if it was the other way around, it would have been an investigation and they would have already had an arrest. But they commandeered a plane that was chartered by the St. Martin Medical Center. I just want to know if it's true. I just want to know if it's true. So please contact the St. Martin Medical Center and please let me know. I listened to the interview this morning with Mr. Knops. I listened to a part of it. And one of the things that I listen to, you have to listen to when people talk. You have to listen to when they talk. One of the things he said that piqued my interest, he said, if St. Martin behaves, what do you mean by behave? That's what I want to know. What do you mean by behave? Somebody could only behave, only my mother could have tell me to behave, or my father. So that means that's superiority. You know, this whole thing we equal, and we behave. So what happens if we misbehave? And European countries, superpowers have always shown when they have an interest in a place, first thing they do is they bring in military. I notice a lot of military trucks and things driving around in St. Martin. None of the guys that are here for hurricane protection. You know, like they were looking for weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. You know, and the other thing, they're here to help. You have to listen to how they talk. You're here to help, but if you are here to help, I also have the choice to refuse it. Somebody fall and you stick out your hand. A lot of times say, no, I'm good. You also have to help them. No, I don't want your help. You can't ram help down somebody's throat. You understand? You can't ram. Where we need help, for example, with the hospital. We need help, social housing. Areas that they never want. Why your only help is finance, justice, finance and justice. You only want to help with finance and justice. Why is that? Why you don't want to help with public health? I remember as Commissioner of Public Health going to Holland to try to get money for the same St. Martin Medical Center. No, that's your responsibility. No help there, but justice, 22 million euros a year to help. I don't want your help no more. Newspaper article, Madam Chair, and I'm going to give you a reason why. Because I need to speak about these things. I need to speak about, because of the truth. Former Minister of Finance. St. Martin, new Minister of Finance, Richard Gibson, set to improve strained relationships between Philipsburg and The Hague on his first visit to the Netherlands earlier this week. Key message was mutual respect due to observation of existing laws and regulation and no loss of face by anyone. The article goes on to say, I want to turn the page for a more constructive relationship, he said. The response to Gibson's effort to change the dynamics of the present dialogue between the two countries was positive. Concrete results were achieved in a meeting with the Dutch Minister of Security and Justice, Art van der Steur, and his colleague Minister of Home Affairs, Kingdom and Kingdom Relationship, Ronald Plasterk. On Tuesday, van der Steur approved St. Martin's pending request to make specialists St. Martin's pending request to make specialists available for months to assist the police force combating spat robberies and shootings that plagues the island. But nobody know where they come from. But they were coming before the hurricane. Nobody know where they come from. But today, that's the impression we want to give. Again, we could say these things. The CFT on the 2017 budget, the budget was approved in balance. But the CFT warned that 30 million should not be considered, it should be considered an incidental injection, not structural. So which means the CFT at the time was already warning that by 2018 you was going to run a deficit because you couldn't go back to GB for 30 million. And talking about untruths, when the minister was asked if he's taking 30 million from GB, he said no, 12. He said 12. Okay? So again, and you get it, this is the worst government in the history of man. We are talking about our own when we do that. We're talking about our own. And how do you expect people to respect us if we don't respect ourselves? You could be critical, you could ask critical questions, you could be firm with the ministers, you could be firm with members of parliament. But the level of disrespect, I can't accept it. And you know, I believe I'm a God-fearing man. I'm sure all of us are in here. Thank God thank God I failed the screening. Because I would have skipped over there many a time. I would jump over there many a time because it's impossible. It's impossible. And they look at you with a frown on your face, but when they're talking and disrespecting, it's normal. It's normal. And remember, the people that kick you, you love the most. We was never. The DP was a party started by Cladwati. As a matter of fact, the DP was started by Melford Hazel. The DP was blue. The Nationals was red. And then when Claude went to the DP with red, Melford Hazel went to the Nationals with blue. But that red DP was Claude. Claude wasn't no Dutch. Claude was a Caribbean man. That's what he said. And that trend carried on. But because they couldn't beat the Democratic Party, they couldn't beat them in election, then vote buying became a thing called the buying votes. That's how they started. Started to look. But even in the vote buying, the Dutch turned a blind eye because they made the poster child, like Barry Bonds is the only baseball player who took steroids. The Democrat, and after the United People's Party, was the poster child of vote buying. But no one else did it. Nobody else did it. The poster child was the up. But nobody else do it. Ever in St. Martin. Nobody else ever do it. Hypocrisy.
Radio listeners, TV viewers, you've been listening to excerpt from the meeting of Parliament yesterday. You're listening to Member of Parliament Franklin Myers. And what we want to take along from there, of course, we're going to finish it tomorrow or on Monday, God's willing, is that words have consequences. In playing our island politics, going back to the Island Council when I served, some of the things we did was to say that I got one on you. We said a lot of things that we didn't take along, the consequences of the things we say, and for the outsider, they were gospel. We said things about each other when we're in and when we're out. Our approach to being part of government, a part of the legislative, was a whole different thing. Many reasons were given why certain people were winning the election. They were supposedly buying votes and stuff like that. And all of these things are the things that are coming back to haunt us now. We have said that people stole government money, people bought fridges, I don't know if that is true. I know I didn't. I don't worry about the sirens that pass my house at night because I'm sure they're not looking for me. I don't have that to worry about. Those that do have that worry. My gray hair is white because it's hereditary, not because of worry. So if we're going to fight an enemy, the first thing you have to decide who the common enemy is. And that's where Mr. Myers was going. We have to decide if we want to take on the enemy, and we have to be straightforward. We can't go fighting the enemy while we are fighting within ourselves.
Interesting. Well, basically, when we speak and when we were about to bring forward some of the replays, I alluded to making sure that the populace, the voters, understand and continuously understand what is going on. You know, you are dealing with different colors. You are dealing with different people, but understanding politics mixed in with truth, and not so much on truth, but the truth and what is fictitious and the way to do it. But yet, because they are the voters, they would understand the color that they actually back. And these are some of the things that has to get down to most of the listeners and those who vote. Being able to understand when Mr. Jones say that is red, but red is made up of different colors. So is it the truth that is red, or it was green before it was red, or blue before it was purple? And these are some of the things that has played a role for many years.
Look, as Samartan politics, what it is this. We have an inclination to invite people into our house to tell us what to do. Your kids misbehave, you call the neighbor to set him straight. Your wife misbehave, call the police, set her straight. We don't have anymore the habit of dealing with our own issues. Starting back in the 90s when we had a demonstration, we're going to be doing something about it. You had we had a lot of other organizations, you had the opposition. But the things were, the messages that were going out to Samartan were that the other side wasn't playing a fair game, that the ball field was not level, the playing field was not level, and that may be true, may not have been true, may be true. But my point is, we have invited the devil in to take care of our households, and now we can't get rid of them because we refuse to deal with it ourselves. Something that I tell you almost weekly here when we talk about the Dutch coming in your opinion, that's why they come in. My stance is they have no right to come in. We need to deal with our own problems. We created them. We need to deal with them. We have to take the responsibility. We have to show maturity in dealing with our own problems in the house. We cannot, and that is why we had a problem in 95 after Lewis, and that is why we don't have many problems going forward, because we don't take decisions on our own. We listen to what other people say and what other people think it should be. If you put your name out there and ask people to give you their confidence, you have an obligation to defend these people and protect this country with your life as need be. You can't invite people in, even if you don't talk to the next neighbor. You can't invite people in to take the next neighbor out for you. That's not the way it works. I agree with the member Myers that we are to blame for where we are. An old lady who doesn't follow politics and didn't go to any university told me a few weeks ago, she said, Mr. Jones, I don't know, but let me tell you, we put ourselves in the mess we're in. She said, because since 1954, I'm older than you can remember, no foreigner runs a madness, only we run it ourselves. So whatever we in, we did it ourselves. But we got to be willing now, and it's nice to take a look at history as Myers did, but we got to be willing now to take the bull by the horns and decide how we're going to go forward. And if going forward, as he says, means telling the Dutch thank you but no thanks, goodbye, then let's do it. Let's make up our mind. Well, we can't suck salt anymore because there is no salt.
There's no salt.
But let's make up our mind to start from zero again and build it back and hope we get it back with what. Taking along the fact that we need to start with good border control. We don't have no country without border control. You can't cede border control to a foreign power. You can't ask a foreign power to come in and save you. It doesn't work like that. And the greatest emergency in our history, because if you go back to the times of the Arawaks in the Caribs come and cannibalize the Arawaks and all the old stories and so, and up to when the Dutch and the Spanish and the French were fighting for this island. We don't have a written history of what hurricanes did back then. We know the devastation would have been much less because we had less people, we had less buildings, whatever, they lived in caves and what have you. But we know from since 1933 when they started recording hurricanes, we have been hit by many of them. And we look at the degrees of devastation. The first one I could still remember clearly is 1960 Donna, because I had a sister born in that gale, and we could see the destruction. We compare it with Lewis, and then we compare Lewis with Irma, and all the others in between. We had a lot of them. But these things are going to continue to happen in St. Martin. We have got to be resigned to this fact that we're not going to get out of the hurricane belt, and we have got to roll up our sleeves and decide to pick up the pieces again. We cannot ever, not ever, in our existence, and not ever teach our children that you should wait for the Dutch or anybody else from across the Atlantic to come and save you. Because if you think this is bad, going forward is going to be worse when you hear things that kind of says that everybody with a Dutch passport is local. That's where you don't want to go.
Interesting, and of course, I would have a whole lot more questions for you, but time looked like it has.
Okay, we'll save them
over.
for another day. No problem. Radio listeners, TV viewers, you've been listening to the morning show, Elton Jones. We're going to try in the coming days, maybe if it takes the whole week, we want you to get a feeling for what's happening in politics. The representatives, we're going to make sure bring them all. We pick them depending on the issue of the day, but we're going to take all the parliamentarians. So far we have had 3, so we have 12 to go. We're going to bring them for you. You must bear in mind they have 90 minutes speaking time, and 90 minutes is more than I have on radio. So we're going to take excerpts and try to get the statements they made that we think says something to the country and is worth dissecting and explaining. But you will hear your parliament in action, and you will be left with the information so you can make a qualified decision on your own. Have a pleasant day further. Goodbye.